Okay, we wanted to welcome you all to the question and answer session that Workforce Development Training Fund is hosting. My name is Sharon Geisler, and I am the program manager for this program. And we have started offering these question and answer sessions because once we rolled out some of the new rule revisions, we were getting a lot of questions and people wanting to know a little bit more information. And so we found these sessions to be helpful. So we really want to utilize this time mainly for answering questions that you have. But we also will go ahead and give you a quick tour of our website to be able to access some of the information when you're ready. And then also just give you a high-level overview of the program, and then, like I said, open it up for questions. I did want to let you know that we do have Ivy Moore on the Zoom call as well, and she will be able to speak to the apprenticeship grants. She does need to leave before our time is going to be up, and so I'm going to go ahead and let her start us off with the information about our apprenticeship grants. If you can see our website information here, the easiest way to get to this is if you type in the dws.yo.gov, and I'm going to go ahead and put it on our chat for everybody to have here. And then once you go to the Department of Workforce Service main website, we do have an icon down underneath the picture for Workforce Development Training Fund. So this is really the easiest way to get to our webpage, which gives you some general information about our program. These are Q&A sessions that we have coming up. And then there's some more information below. But before we go any further, I will let Ivy go ahead and talk about one of our grants, the apprenticeship grant.
Thanks, Sharon. Hi, everyone. My name is Ivy Moore, and I'm the apprenticeship program lead underneath the Business Training and Support Unit. And I oversee the apprenticeship grant underneath the Workforce Development Training Fund. I just wanted to start off by just explaining a little bit more about what apprenticeships are and how they can be applied to your business. So apprenticeships are long-term industry-driven training that allows employers to develop and create flexible training opportunities for their employees. And it allows your employees to gain paid work experience, classroom instruction, and earn a portable nationally recognized credential by the Department of Labor. So apprenticeship programs are registered with the Department of Labor, and we work closely with our State Department. It's the Office of Apprenticeship. So we really do a lot of collaboration there to assist businesses with any of the technical assistance needed to stand up a program. There are some key components to registering a program, and the first one's going to be that the program is industry-led. So all of the programs are industry vetted programs through the Department of Labor that really give businesses and individuals the high quality training that is needed for the high demand occupations. And then it also includes on-the-job learning, that hands-on instruction. That's where the business is going to be providing that expert mentor for that apprentice to earn all of the specific traits that they need for that industry and occupation. There's the related classroom instruction. It's supplemental education to that hands-on learning that they're doing. And that's where we'll kind of talk about where the grant can plug in. All apprenticeship programs also do need to include a wage progression. So that's a beginning, middle, and ending wage. That's identified by the business. It can be as little or as much as you would like, but there does need to be some sort of progression throughout that program. And then credentials. We ask that all programs offer either the DOL offered portable credential or some sort of license or certificate at the end of the program. Really how apprenticeship programs can help the businesses here in Wyoming, one with recruiting and developing a highly skilled workforce in your industry. It's all specific to what your needs are, where you need help, where there needs to be more training in your industries. It can also help with productivity and that bottom line. Those individuals that do participate in apprenticeship programs are very motivated to stay there because there are a lot of benefits for them as well. It can help also with reducing turnover. Right now, the Department of Labor is showing that 93% of apprentices that complete the apprenticeship program are retaining employment with that same employer. And then really you're creating a flexible and unique training opportunity for yourselves. So the program standards that we write, which is kind of the meat and potatoes of the program, that's all developed by you. We do have models for almost every industry and occupation through the Department of Labor that you can kind of use and tweak as a template. But really, as far as those details go, that's up to you as the business. So the apprenticeship grant under the Workforce Development Training Fund is a reimbursement model grant for the related technical instruction. Government entities are eligible to participate in this grant because the Department of Labor does recognize government entities as a potential sponsor. Some of the services that we can cover with this grant includes tuition and registration, classroom fees, travel and instructor wages and fringe benefits. Really, the purpose of this grant is to assist businesses with the cost that comes with training those apprentices. And really, the related technical instruction can be delivered in multiple ways. So it can be through a community college or a university. It can also be delivered through a virtual or online training opportunity. And then it can also be delivered in-house. So that would be with a certified instructor. And there's opportunities for that across the state, virtually or in person, to do that. But that's where those instructor wages and fringe benefits come into play. And with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions. I know I kind of breezed through that pretty quickly.
You are welcome to go ahead and Lauren, looks like you have a question. You can also put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring that as well. Yes, well, how can we help you?
Hi, my question, and I apologize, I missed the very beginning of this, but I can't recall. I know either the apprenticeship or the internship grants is one that does not apply to municipalities or local governments. Which one is that governments can use and which one we can't?
Yeah, so the apprenticeship grant is the grant that is eligible for government entities. The internship grant at this time, government entities are not eligible for that.
So we do have a question on chat about where the available internships are located. So we don't actually manage that portion. Basically, a business will apply for the internship grant because they are hosting an internship opportunity, and then they will locate and identify the potential interns that can fill that opportunity. We can get you connected with the workforce centers to let you know if they have any individuals that have registered that would be interested in an internship opportunity. We would also recommend that you reach out to your local community colleges, University of Wyoming. Even high school students are interested in doing internship opportunities. And so you would be responsible for finding individuals, and then your business would be hosting the internship opportunity.
And Sharon, I'd like to piggyback on that as far as apprenticeships go. So we have an amazing resource that's available to the public. It's apprenticeship.gov. That is the Department of Labor's platform for apprenticeships. And if you go into that, I can put that directly in the chat too. But if you go onto that platform and go to resources, there's going to be a tab that says Partner Finder. And if you click that and type in Wyoming, all of the current registered apprenticeship programs will be listed there by company name and area. And then most of them have a actual contact listed, and it'll actually have a link where you can click and apply for those as well. And you can see what openings are available under those apprenticeships.
And Ivy, we do have a question in the chat. Are apprenticeships only for specific industries?
So that's a really good question. No, there really are not any limitations on apprenticeship programs. You know, we have this dated idea in our heads when it comes to registered apprenticeship programs that they're pretty limited to the traditional trades like construction, plumbing, electricity, things like that. But really, we're working very hard to expand apprenticeships, especially in Wyoming, where we are a more traditional trade state. And really what's booming in Wyoming is cybersecurity. We have a lot of IT industry openings. And then we're working towards early childhood education, healthcare. We've got some culinary opportunities. So really there aren't any limitations. And if you are interested in some of those non-traditional opportunities, you can go to that apprenticeship.gov and look at some of the already pre-approved templates.
Do we have any other questions that people might have for Ivy in regards to apprenticeship questions? Let's see. What is the typical time from application to grant approval?
You know, I'd say I'm still fairly new in this new role of reviewing, approving, or drafting those contracts and things like that. You know, we have to first review it and then take it to the subcommittee of the Workforce Development Council. And so it can take anywhere between, you know, 1 to 2 weeks to get the review done and get on the subcommittee's calendars. And then I would say, I don't know, anywhere from, you know, a week to 30 days for the AG's office to process those contracts.
So we recommend really for all of our grants under Wdtf, I would plan on at least a minimum of 30 days up to 45 to 60 days, depending on the grant that we're looking at. We do have a rule within the business training grant that it cannot be less than 30 days before the training has started. And then I would say with pre-hire and apprenticeship, it does typically take a little longer for the processing, review and process of the application, and then internships as well. And so we can definitely speak to each of those grants as we go through them and what that timeline might look like. But I would give yourself at least 30 to 60 days before the training is expected to start to get your application submitted, so we have time to review it and get it processed. We do have several other questions regarding apprenticeship specifically, so I want to catch you, Ivy, before you leave on those. The next question is, what is the difference between the apprenticeship and the training grant? If you'd like, I can address that a little bit later, but if you'd like to go ahead and speak to that, you can.
Yeah, definitely. So the apprenticeship grant is going to only be eligible to registered apprenticeship programs with the Department of Labor. And then I can let Sharon kind of go a little bit deeper into the training grants. I know she's going to dive into that here later. But that's for businesses that have current employees that are looking to upskill or train up a deficiency, from what I understand.
All good questions. We do have another general question. Are there set deadlines for applications, or is it rolling until the funding is gone? That's a great question. I do want to let you know that currently we do have funding available, and so we are accepting applications as they are being submitted. If we do get to the point where it looks like we might have to have more of an eye on the funding availability, we will certainly get the messaging out on our website and then try and get that communication out as best we can. The business training grant application, if we don't have funding available, that system won't actually accept applications, and then we'll get the messaging out for the other applications if that's a scenario. But right now we do have funding available for the applications that are being submitted. It looks like Casey has a question. Is there a time frame to have this training completed? Casey, I would like to clarify, are you asking about apprenticeship training? And maybe give us a little bit more information about whether you have an apprenticeship program in place now or if you're considering it.
Hi, I'm Casey. So I was referring to it, accessing the grant funding. You said if there's apprenticeships already set up, that they'll be under that .gov link. Accessing the funding, is there a time to have the training completed or a cap? I know this funding's available till it runs out, correct?
Correct. So Casey, we look at apprenticeship programs a little different because they do have a structure to them. So depending on how your apprenticeship program is set up, if you're time-based, if you're competency-based, if you're hybrid-based, we would work with you specifically and individually for your apprenticeship program to look at what that time frame would entail for the entire apprenticeship program for somebody to go from the beginning to the end. And then when that related instruction would fall within those components, and then you would write the grant to cover an identified time frame of the related instruction when it's going to occur. If it's all at the beginning, then we could, write the time frame for that training period for that time frame. If your related instruction is woven into the on-the-job instruction and it goes for a year or 2 years or 3 years, we would work with you specifically for your case and help you identify the time period that you want the grant to cover. And then we would go from there. So out of all of the different grants, the apprenticeship grant is probably the one that is most customized to help you and to the benefit of your program.
Okay, thank you, ladies.
Any other apprenticeship questions that Ivy can help address before she needs to log off? Okay, Ivy, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. And if there's any questions that do come up that I'm not able to answer, we'll reach back out to you and get you connected with the one who's asking those questions.
Sounds great. Thanks, Sharon. Bye, everyone.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and go back to our website. I did want to go ahead and include this in the chat as well for people to have a direct access to Workforce Development Training Fund. And we do have other grants that are in our program that have different purposes and can help different training needs. And so we'll go through those on a high level and then again, open it up for questions. So we did cover the apprenticeship grant. And so again, that is available to registered apprenticeship programs and the related instruction providers that work with that RAP in providing the related instruction. Another grant that we have available is called our business training grants. It is one of the original grants that has been available for some time. And so this grant was set up to help Wyoming businesses who would like to keep their workforce trained and upskilled. And so they can apply for this grant for their existing employees to either correct a skill deficiency or to continue adding to their skill set. It does need to be directly related to the trainee's occupation and their industry. And there are some requirements for these to be eligible. For example, there does need to be a training registration cost involved for them to go to this training. We can help pay for travel cost if they are going to the training, or if you have a trainer coming to your site, we can help with the trainer's travel cost. It does help pay for instructor wages if that instructor is coming to your location and they have a registration fee for their time and effort. Class materials, it does not pay for lodging and meals. That was under the old rules. And so we just wanted to make you aware of that. This is also one of the grants that was impacted by the rule change. We were able to increase how much a trainee capped out at in a state fiscal year. So we do have designated preferred industries. And so if you go to this website, actually, I think it's at the beginning. So at the beginning of the Workforce Development Training Fund, if you scroll down, we do have a list of preferred industries that have been identified by the Workforce Development Council. And if your business is in one of these preferred industries, your trainees, each of your trainees in your business could be eligible for up to $5,000 in a state fiscal year to go towards their training needs. If you're not in one of these industries, then your employees would be eligible for up to $4,000 in a state fiscal year. As a business, as you apply for these trainees to go, when all their training starts totaling up, you are eligible for up to $200,000 in a state fiscal year to get your trainees employed, to get your trainees that extra training that they need to keep your business current and competitive. So the business training grants, like I said, are available to regular Wyoming businesses. And we'll just go here. On the website here, it gives you a quick little synopsis of the intent of this grant and the things that could be utilized for. Here are those limits that we were talking about, 4,000 for those industries that are not preferred, and then in the preferred industries up to 5,000, up to 200 per business. Also on our website here for this grant, there are a number of forms and documents that we look for both at the application stage and at the final report stage. So here's a really great resource to go and get those documents or samples here. We also have the rules for this grant posted here. You'll definitely want to be familiar with the rules of the grant. They all have slightly different rules and eligibility requirements and performance measures and final report requirements. This is my one grant that is accessible online. And so you would actually need to follow these steps and get your business set up in our grant system. Once we verified your eligibility as a business, we would activate your account. And then once your account's been activated, you can go in and start submitting applications. You would follow these steps really for all of our grants. You all need to be set up with Secretary of State, workers' compensation, unemployment insurance. For the business training grant, you also need to be set up in Wyoming at Work. We do get a lot of feedback from our businesses, and they say, well, do I need to have a UI or a workers' comp account if I'm exempt from paying into those systems? And the answer is yes, you do still need to be registered. In order for us to get a certificate of good standing. You may not have to pay into their systems based on how your business is set up, but you do still have to be registered with them based on our rules so that we can verify your good standing. You would then go into the grant system and you would access that by clicking on this one, and it will give you the option first to set your account up, and you would go through these steps. Once your account has been set up and activated, then you would be able to log in by putting your email address and setting up your password, and then you would go in. We do use this landing page to try and communicate with our businesses if anything has changed. So that earlier question about funding limits and availability, if we did not have any funding available any longer under this state fiscal year, we would make sure that that was posted here. We do also have some directions to help you set up your account. We also have directions on how to do your applications. And again, this is another link to get you to that grant management system. And then we have some further pieces of information here that would help you in getting your account set up. We also have a variety of frequently asked questions and helpful hints for the business training grant specifically. I'll move on to the internship grant and we'll talk about that real quick and then go through the others and then have that question and answer session. So our internship grants is one of our newer grants that we've made available to Wyoming businesses to host an internship opportunity. We consider that a short-term work experience for an employee that you have hired with that intent that they're there for a short period of time. We are allowing up to 1,040 hours that are eligible for reimbursement for their wages. And we're also allowing up to $25 an hour to be reimbursed. When you do submit an application for this grant, you would want to show the wage that you're wanting to pay your intern and then some supporting documentation to support that it's a reasonable wage for that occupation, that industry, that internship opportunity. And we have in here on the application, we have several websites that would help you understand where to go to get that supporting documentation for the wage requirements. And so in the application itself, we have several suggested websites to help you determine what would be a reasonable average wage for that intern opportunity. Again, we do have the rules posted for this grant. We do have the application. It's a manual PDF that you'll download and fill out. And then this is a grant that you're able to request reimbursement for those wages, either on a monthly basis. We suggest that you could also do a quarterly or at the end, but we do have a grant reimbursement form that we would want to make sure that you are understanding and filling out completely. And so we would recommend that you would at least get the first reimbursement in at the beginning of the internship opportunity so that we make sure that you have an idea of how that works and that you're filling that out properly. So we would like to help you with this grant. We give technical assistance when you're doing the application. We give technical assistance when you're doing the grant reimbursements. And then any of the final report documents that you need as well will help you with all of that. We do have a pre-hire and pre-obligation grant. The pre-hire grant was designed to help businesses when they are either expanding or growing in Wyoming, or they have lost some workers, whether it was due to the pandemic or just the economic situation at the time. And so they're having difficulty getting new employees hired because they're looking for certain skill sets. For example, if a business needs CNAs, typically they need to be trained before you're able to hire them into that role. And so those businesses would identify that skill set that needs to be trained up. They would meet with a training provider that would be able to provide that skill set. They would meet with the workforce center that can help them recruit potential people to go through that training and also get them employed after they've gone through that training. And also the local economic development entity that also can support that there's a shortage of workers with that skill set and that training is necessary. And so they would meet up with that training provider that would identify the training that they could provide. The applicant would be the actual training provider, with the businesses also signing documentation in the application that they're supporting that training and also intending to at least interview and hopefully hire those individuals as they come out of the training. One of the performance measures of the pre-hire grant is that those trainees that get that training are then employed in that industry at least 90 days, within 90 days after they've completed the training, for the purpose of getting them out there and helping those businesses get those employees that they need. Again, in this section, we do have the rules for this grant. We do have an application. This is the form that those partnering businesses would fill out in that application. And then we have some other forms for the reimbursement and the final reports, and then the trainees. We also have a pre-obligation grant, and typically this is utilized by the economic development entities here in Wyoming, mainly if they're working with a business that wants to move to Wyoming or is expanding in Wyoming and they have training needs to make this happen. And so it's a co-application that would be completed by the economic development entity and the business that they are working with, and identify what those training needs would be for them to either expand or to relocate here to Wyoming. We would pre-obligate the funding that they have identified, the amount of funding that they've identified, to set it aside to make sure that we don't have, that we know that we have that funding available to them. And then once they've identified what that actual training is going to look like and who's going to go and when it's going to happen and all the details of the training, then they would apply either through the business training grant or through the pre-hire grant in order to access the funding. So that is a two-step process. And we're also happy to walk you through those components, what you need to do, make sure that your application is eligible. The pre-hire, the pre-obligation, and the apprenticeship grants all then go to the Workforce Development Council for their review and their recommendation on whether it gets approved or not. And then it gets drafted into contract. So really quick, I've gone through the different grants. I've got a very fast, high-level understanding of the grants and how they can apply to your training needs. I do believe that we've had several questions come in through the chat that we can go back and look at. And also, if you have any specific questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to raise your hand or unmute, and then we'll open it up for questions. I'm going to start at the beginning here. Okay, so Wayne had a question. I believe this is going back to the apprenticeship grant. His question was, does on-the-job training qualify, or does it have to be formal classroom training? So for the apprenticeship grant, there are specific components which Ivy talked about. One of those components is the on-the-job learning that you're getting from your mentor that has been identified. And in addition to, you're also getting the classroom theoretical related instruction training. And so that is the expense that we're able to help you with, because typically there's a tuition involved, there's class materials involved, there may be travel involved. And so we're able to help with the related instruction expenses, not the on-the-job training expense. There is another question in here. Is the pre-hire grant available for municipalities as well? We're having a hard time finding equipment operators with CDL, industry-wide issue competition among construction, landscaping, etc. That's a really good question that I don't think I covered. The internship grant, the pre-hire grant, and the business training grants do not allow government entities to apply for these grants. And so unfortunately in this scenario, we do understand that need for the CDL drivers. However, we're not able to help you from a grant perspective. I do know that there are a number of training facilities in Wyoming that are training the CDL drivers to get that skill set and get that license, and are coming out into the workforce and available for hire. And so I'm only able to recommend maybe that you approach those training providers and find out who's coming out of their training courses and see if you might be able to get connected there from that perspective. Another question, does the training fund work on a reimbursement basis as well? Yes, so all of our grants are reimbursement based. We would expect that you have done the initial outlay of the expenses, and then the eligible expenses that have been approved in that grant can be submitted to us. We do have procedures for each of the grants of different ways to submit that reimbursement request, and then we'll review it. And then if they get approved, then we'll go ahead and make that reimbursement back to you. The internship grant, we're able to reimburse, like I said, at a minimum on a monthly basis. The apprenticeship grant, we're able to reimburse once different components of the related instruction are getting completed. When those apprentices complete that portion of the related instruction, we're able to reimburse for that. And then the pre-hire grant, once the trainees have completed the training and have gotten their certification or their license or whatever it is after they finish that training, and they've gotten that employment opportunity, we're able to reimburse for that. And then did I ever address them all? Oh, the business training grants. So the business training grants does have a requirement that after the training has been completed, that trainee stays in your employment for at least 45 days. After that requirement has been met, then the business is able to submit their final report and their request for reimbursement with the receipts that were paid out. So each of our grants have different requirements for the reimbursement to occur, but they all are reimbursement based. Let's see, we're going to go through these questions here. When does the state fiscal year begin and end? That's a great question. We start each of our fiscal year on July 1st, ending on June 30th. What happens if an internship begins in one fiscal year and ends in the next? Another great question. So one of the rule adjustments that we did with the internship grant is that we have allowed the businesses to have up to 6 internship opportunities, as long as they have enough workforce to mentor those interns and give quality work experience for those internships. We do look at the active internships. And so let's just say you had 2 internships from fiscal year 22 that are still active, and you want to apply for another internship opportunity in fiscal year 23, which we're in right now. We would look at the 2 that are still active and then say that you would be available or eligible for 4 here in fiscal year 23. So we're looking at the active internship grants that you have, and you can have up to 6 active in any fiscal year. Another part to that question, does this use one of our available internships for both years? So yes, it would. Can your office help determine which of these programs is the best fit for our company? Absolutely. We're certainly able to have that question here if you would like to go into that a little bit here and ask those questions, or I'd be also happy to set up an individual time on our calendars to meet with you to learn more about your business, what your needs are, what your training needs are, and then we can work through the different grants to help you understand what might be a better fit for you. Let's see, the next question. Does the internship program be used for CDL and heavy equipment operator training? So I think that the internship program is definitely designed to give a short-term work experience. If you have an individual that you're bringing on board your business for that learning opportunity, it could conceivably be eligible. I think we would certainly need to look at the application and look at what that work experience is really overall, what it looks like. There is a narrative that you would include in the application explaining the internship opportunity, what that intern would be learning, how they're benefiting from that work experience, how the business is benefiting from that work experience, and what the benefit to the community would be as well. So I think I'm certainly open to that idea as an opportunity. I think that there's also some OSHA requirements around some of that of heavy equipment operating and CDL that you would definitely need to be able to meet age-wise, and then just you know, whether they're eligible for hazardous occupations. And so that might be something that we could talk about a little bit more individually, and I'd be happy to set up a call with you as well regarding that question if we would like to go a little bit further in that. I think I caught all the ones in the chat. Does anybody else have other questions or want me to go anywhere else on our website? This is your time.
Okay, hi. I was curious if on the other training grants, if there's a cap on how many students or participants there can be. And I know once I really get into the grants and read the rules, but
No, that's a really
'cause
good question, and thank you, because it does vary based on the grants. So the business training grant, you're going to do an application based on the training event and the registration cost to go to that training event. You could have one trainee going there, or you could have 5, or you could have 10. And so the training event under the business training grants is not limited to the number of trainees that are going. That's more limited based on the individual's training budget that they have available to them to spend. Also to keep in mind, if you have a trainer coming to your location under the business training grant, their cost, their overall cost would be divided by the number of trainees that are attending. And so in that scenario, you're better off if you have more people attend, because then it would be less per person. The internship grant is limited 1 intern to 1 internship, so you would have up to 6. The pre-hire grant is really determined by those partnering businesses that say, we need this skill set and we're going to hire them when they get trained. It's really dependent on how many the businesses are looking to hire or to get employed, would be how many would be included in that grant. I think one of the rules is that you're able to train 10% or 2 more than what is being requested by the businesses. And so that number would limit that. The apprenticeship grant is really limited more based on the ratio of mentor to apprentice. Typically it's 1-to-1 or 1-to-2. And so it would really depend on how many mentors or journeymen you have with how many apprentices you want to have go through that training. And we could help you think through that as well. Did that answer help, Casey? Okay, so then it looks like we have another question here, the intern. All right, it looks like Florian is putting a comment in to help Dan with his understanding.
Or maybe Dan helped me with my understanding.
Okay, there you go. I love having all you here and having questions, and hopefully having more than one. You're asking questions that somebody else didn't either know to ask or were afraid to ask. So please know that any question is welcome, and this is why we're here, to help you understand our grants. Brittany and Shay, I'll introduce you both quickly, and if I forgot anything, I'll let you guys jump in. Shay, I'm not sure if you have sound, so we can let you chat anything in. Shay Moon is our program manager for business training and support, which Workforce Development falls under, and she has some other programs under her umbrella as well. And then Brittany Huffman is the program manager for Wyoming Grown, and also works within Workforce Development Training Fund and helps me with these grants. And so they also are available for questions. And if I forgot anything, you guys feel free to jump in and add other pieces that you think would be helpful. Okay, well, I do appreciate everybody taking their time out of their day to attend this. All really good questions. Hopefully, also, as you go back to the website and process what we talked about at a high level, if you are coming up with additional questions, I did want to let you know that we do have 2 emails now, just because of the attention that this grant is getting and the volume of applications we're getting. We have one that's specifically designated for the internship grant. And then our Wdtf email is helpful for all the other questions. And so I'm going to give you both here in the chat. And if you do come up with any other questions after this, please let us know. And we love that you all are taking the time to learn about these grants. If you working with other businesses, learn that they're not aware of this or weren't sure how it worked, or just, are talking about the expenses of getting their workforce trained, please spread the word. Let them know that this grant and this program is out there, and we're here to help businesses. We know that getting Wyoming's workforce trained and just continue to move forward in their professional development is a very impactful thing for businesses, and we would love to be able to help them with that. Okay, well, if you guys are good to go, we'll go ahead and close this Zoom meeting. Just a reminder, we do have some more coming up. Right now, they are on every other Tuesday for October and November at 2 o'clock. And so if you want to hear this again, you're certainly welcome to register again. If there's anybody else that you want to recommend to join next time, please let them know how to get to our website. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.